To see you both, guys. I'm really fun about QUADVIUM, but I have a lot of questions about QUADVIUM. But let's start for the beginning. I want to know the history about both. How did you get started playing bass, and how did you get into heavy metal music in general? Let's start with Paul, and then with Steve.
Go
Okay.
ahead, Paul.
Um, for me, like listening to heavy metal started like early teenage years, like really early, like maybe 12, 13, getting really quickly in, yeah, like thrash metal, death metal. Let's say like, yeah, probably it was, yeah, it was like early teenage years. And that brought me also, that made me switch from violin to bass guitar. You know, in the end, when I started high school, I found schoolmates and just we started bands, and you know, violin was just gone, just completely focused on bass guitar. So that's how I started out.
And you, Steve?
Yeah, not so incredibly different than that, honestly. Just like Jeroen, I went through the school music system and tried a few different instruments here and there, and spent some time with some, and didn't spend some time with others. But by the time I was, well, it was before my driver's license, so maybe 14 or 15, I think I discovered the contrabass.
Yeah.
And there was room for one more spot in the orchestra class, and so I got to come in as a beginner, which was kind of hard because everybody already knew, everybody had bowing techniques. So I spent a lot of time in the isolation room, the practice room, with the beginner book, just learning the positions of the notes and everything. You know, the other contrabass player in the orchestra, one day he brought like a Fender. You know, this is early 80s, so I'm sure it was just a Precision or something. You know, to show his new electric bass to everybody. And once I sat down and started playing with that, I just there's that light bulb on the, you know, like, oh, this is for me. So yeah, same as my partner there. Just started mixing in with the crowds of people at school that were making bands, or you know, going home after school and playing all the stuff we were listening to. We were learning how to play Run to the Hills and Heaven and Hell and Shot Down in Flames by AC/DC. We're playing all this stuff for fun, and that totally kicked ass on any of my years of school music, because now we could smoke weed and play fucking heavy metal, and so that kind of opened the door. And yeah, and now half a century later, here we are, still smoking weed and playing bass and playing songs we like to listen to.
Obviously, I know to both of you guys. I love all your projects that you had, but I want to ask you about the general process for QUADVIUM to work. I mean, the way of working for QUADVIUM is the same that you had used in your previous projects, for example, for Obscura, Dead Autopsy, or in this moment is different?
Well, I think we, as soon as we started about this idea, I think we already had very much in mind, you know, the stuff we listened to. So not only we played, but also the stuff we listened to, like jazz fusion stuff, world music, ethnic stuff. So it was not purely like based on what we have done before, but also it was like there was a wish list, you know, of stuff that we would love to touch in this project. Right, Steve?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we the idea itself is simply pretty unique. You know, when we started to become friends, you know, naturally, like two people, but it's pretty easy to start a project between any other combination, guitar, drummer, singer, whatever. But here we found ourselves, you know, both fretless bass players, and we were both in awe of each other's style. And I think that gave us a lot of conversation. You know, we tried to talk about different ways we record with our own bands, and the idea came up that we should do something together. And yeah, to put a band together with two bass players that play the way we do, we did not really have any idea of how to do this. We just knew that we wanted to, and like Jeroen said, we had a few guidelines, and one of them was to make sure that we incorporated these elements of music that we enjoyed to listen to, like outside of just any kind of technical. Well, I mean, flamenco is a very technical, syncopated style that can satisfy a metal player because it's very demanding, and that was something we definitely had in common. We both love big range of all kinds of different ethnic music, and we wanted to just put it all in there. We wanted to make just the grande estufa, you know, just the big pot of everything, and that actually made it even more difficult to create this project, because how the hell are we going to do that, you know? But it was a long time in the planning and wishing. And so as far as creating the project like other bands, absolutely not. It was the most different thing possible. But we didn't quit. We kept exchanging musical ideas. We always stay in touch with each other, and we reached out to different musicians. In the case of the drummer, the first person we asked agreed to come along and help us, which was great. But in the case of the fourth member, which we weren't even sure at the beginning if we needed a guitarist, we were thinking, you know, this project is so weird, maybe we can, you know, come up with a different stringed instrument or a synthesized player, or, you know, it didn't just, the door was wide open. But we felt that even though we wanted this huge mix of world elements and everything, we still wanted to have a pretty strong foundation in metal. So it made sense to get a guitar player. And after trying a couple different people, very, very talented guitar players, by the way, but just not the right cut to help out these two poor bass players. So, yeah, then when we finally did find the right one. And boy, when we found the right one, not only guitar playing wise fit, I mean, it was a factory of composition. And all of a sudden we had a lot of songs, and then the band really felt like, you know, it felt past idea phase and into work phase. And we worked together kind of like this, like Zoom calls, because we're from all different parts of the world. But yeah, it kind of went like that. Very, very unique situation. Yeah, nothing like meeting your friends, you know, and setting up at a garage and, you know, and all that. Nothing like that at all. It was pretty unique, but we're glad we got this album done for sure.
How do you feel like working without vocalist? I mean, it is difficult to get to the point of saying, okay, this song like this is perfect for our album, or in any moment or the composition process, have you talked in include a vocalist? Because I'm not a musician, but I imagine from my ignorance that maybe it's difficult without a lyric in the middle, make a song or make a track in general.
Yeah, I think what you ask is yeah, that's how, you know, usually bands operate based on melodic vocals, etc. But I think both Steve and me, we have done so much death metal also as well, like where vocals are monotone. And, you know, like with death metal, progressive metal, as soon as vocals are not melodic, that means that you have a lot of room in the music to play with melodies, and that's happening actually in death metal a lot. You know, like in riffing, melody lines. It's taken over by the instruments. So I think the idea for not having vocals, that was pretty clear. But it was more like the orchestration, like how are we going to make these basses extremely functional, and so not necessarily to give them a role like rhythm or lead, more like how could we get this thing like shaped where both basses play super functional lines and they complement each other, you know, like instead of they clash with each other. So we had to figure out this concept also based on our taste, but also based on, for example, counterpoint. What is a lot, yeah, it's used a lot in obscura, a lot in metal these days as well. You know, it's Baroque based. But not only that, also unisono stuff that makes both basses play exactly the same thing, but then doubled. So that sounds very different. And so there's a lot of elements, also classical elements in there, partly from our background. Yeah.
Yeah, for you guys, what makes a song a good song? When you have to do a quality check for the album, what's the most important thing in a song for you to include it?
That's a new one. Hey, JP. That's pretty interesting. It makes me think back to our demo phase where Eve would present a really involved demo structure, and we would get together, the four of us, and link into this Pro Tools session and listen to the parts. And 90% of the time, our suggestions were of addition and not subtraction. We weren't sitting there telling her, you know, cut this out, cut this out. It was more like, wow, this part here, you know, bar 37 to 50, like this is a really, really cool part, but it's too short. Let's make it longer, or let's repeat it again later. And building from Eve's original ideas. But as far as quality control, it was, that aspect was really, really easy because we fell in love with his first versions very quickly. And like I said, the suggestions were pretty minimal, and it just was amazing that song after song after song, we realized that, you know, every time is just like hitting the mark right in the middle. It's like, it was amazing. It was amazing. Jeroen had set up a shared folder system years back where there were little folders inside with musical ideas. It could be anything from a scale or just a weird phrasing, or maybe MP3s of other music, that something that can influence it. So we had this collection, all these little small ideas, and Eve would open one of the folders and say, okay, what's been on you guys' mind? And he would listen to these tiny little partial ideas and, you know, take these two little pebbles and build a house out of it. And then just, she would say, you know, okay, I'm ready. Let's have our meeting. I want to show you what I've been working on. And we would hear these, old patterns or these old, really crappy examples, but it turned into this epic journey of a song and stuff. So, yeah, that's a pretty interesting question. We don't usually get hit with that one very much, but I think we can safely say, JP, I want you to follow up from your experience, but I think we can safely say that the one thing that seemed to come quickly to this project that's taken forever was the songwriting, because we had a master composer in our group, and Yeah, JP finished,
No,
how do you
absolutely.
remember it?
No, actually, it was from the very beginning that when we got in touch with Eve, she was very open-minded. She was very interested to, we explained, we have an idea, but we have to work it out, and we are none of us, even not Yuma, the drummer, we don't consider ourselves as main composers. So we really needed someone who could visualize everything, who could bring it really in shape. And that was missing also with some other people. We tried to share some ideas, but yeah, with Eve, it was immediately clear that we were so blown away by the music she wrote, and not only that, I mean, don't forget about the way these basses had to be positioned in the mix, in the production. Where do you put them? How, because yeah, it's very easy. This is a very unique thing, but you can easily ruin a production with way too much bass. So it's she had a very clear view, and she has all the talent to put this thing, we have been so lucky, without her and also without Yuma, we would have never been here. So that's also why we consider this as a group. This is not a project. This is not about Steve and me. This is about 4 people who, accomplished to create something.
Great, man, great. That's a really good vision. And I want to know, how was the writing and recording process for Tetradum? How long did it take? And what is the meaning of Tetradum and QUADVIUM?
Well, everything was done in a very segmented way because mainly our distance and it's the nature of the project is very unique. And so we have the support of Agonia Records, who believed in our vision and early vision, which is quite lucky as well too, because things aren't fitting together the way you see them in the future, and you're trying to convince somebody else's ears that, trust me, it's going to be good. And despite the roughness of it, we did have the support of Agonia. But besides that, it was very segmented. The writing process took at least a year, maybe 14 months or so. Because I mean, we're all in many bands and we're all have busy schedules and there was a waiting period between each of one of these demo tracks because of the complexity and the content of it. And even though Eve's first presentations, like I said just now, were amazing on first listen, for anyone to write that stuff takes some time. So the composition took a long time. I think we sent Yuma to the studio in whatever year, I guess last year, 24 or 23. No, 23. Early 2023, we sent Yuma to the studio in February. The guitar was being worked on gradually throughout the year, but I took myself to Amsterdam in August and spent time at Jeroen's place so that we could make these 2 basses not only interact musically, but that we could interact physically, person to person. We sat right next to each other in the room, right in front of the monitor, and went through these bass compositions in very, very immense detail. I mean, we spent hours and hours to get through a song. A couple songs we would split over 2 days. So yeah, none of it came easy, but the methodical way we went about it was the right way, because it was a very new thing, and we had to make sure that we took our time and that it would come out right, because there's no template for us. There's no formula already. The metal bands we play in, opposite. I mean, that's a thing that's done quite regularly, and the patterns are already established, and you can go from setup to final listening product within a couple weeks. But with this band, you know, it had to grow uniquely in front of our eyes because we didn't have 100% vision. You know, we had small visions, so we would just focus on that. And when then that was done, that opened up a possibility for this or this, which one? And then when we chose that direction, then again, this kind of thing. So, yeah, very unique in that regard. And that's kind of where I found the word Tetradome. It's a unique word for us. I don't know if you can look it up. It's not really like a word with its own definition. The meaning of tetrad in science, especially, is the fusion and the harmony of any four elements that come together. And I wanted to focus on that for our first record, especially because, like Jeroen said, it was a complete 4-person effort. And Jeroen get a lot of attention because it's a bass about 2 fretless bass players, you know, showcasing and doing this wonderful music together. But not only are the other 2 guys, one being one of the best drummers in the world and the other being absolutely one of the best guitar players in the universe, they're both incredibly studio efficient, and they both made our bass playing sound a lot better than we could do on our own. So it was completely a 4-person effort.
Yeah.
And with the music being instrumental and taking you into this very weird place, it gave me a science fiction vibe. And I think Tetradome, with the root word being tetrad, being the 4 elements, Tetradome is kind of like the place for it. It's like the location. It came from a little bit from what helped me go that direction too, was also looking at the early graphic of our album cover, which I think Jeroen kind of, you know, we think of everything together, but sometimes one guy starts the idea, and I think Jeroen had a better vision for the album cover. And yeah, if you want to talk about that shape, that's kind of the precursor to where the Tetradome definition comes from.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Yeah, I see this Tetradome as also as a stage. This is the first stage of something. And I hope with this lineup, with this group, that we can make a journey, you know, like over several productions. That would be really a dream come true if we can continue this. And because I think it's something that we are not finished with yet, you know, like, so it's a very good vibe, but most of the time we needed really to, Steve and I have been like, yeah, it's like 16 years, probably 16 years ago that we discussed this for the first time. So you know, like, we have been thinking, brainstorming a lot. We have been exchanging so many ideas, and I think this took definitely a lot of time, but it was worth the effort. If you see where you get, you know, but also finding the right people. Yeah, it's a good vibe. It's really good energy.
Yeah, and you guys, if you have to bring this project to the stage, is there a song that is really demanding, maybe by the intense or maybe by the skill to play it in live?
Every single song on the album fits that description.
But I think, I think that there's one song that is really like extremely demanding for both basses. That's Apophis. I mean, there's a lot going on. There's also fast counterpoint. It's like, it's very demanding. I mean, you know, yeah. So if we ever play live, maybe that one won't be on our set list.
If you've seen the couple music videos that feature me and Jeroen playing a couple of the songs, that was as close to a live situation as we got, because in the studio you can do everything in small segments, but when the camera rolls, you have to play from start to finish, and it was very aerobic. It was like going to the gym. Every time the cameraman says, "Okay, roll the song," and we would start, and we would go through these parts, and your mind is overwhelmed, like, you know, playing this stuff, and you get to the end of the song, and it's like, oh, hold on, time out. Let's before you turn the camera back on, let's catch our breath and stuff, because they're very physically demanding. But the point Jeroen brought up about Apophis, we discovered it. We didn't naturally discover it making the videos. We were hit in the face with it, because in the studio, the basses are crafted to share a bass line. So if you take one person out, you have an incomplete bass line. And same with the other side. Neither side carries the bass of the song. So the two basses together share this. And in the studio and in theory, this was our, you know, holy grail. Like, wow, this is going to be the unique, beautiful thing of this band, because we are so integrated, playing call and answer and harmonies and unison, all the stuff that Jeroen pointed out. And that's all great when you're in control of it in the studio. But when you have to stand back to back in front of a camera and share the bass line, we found ourselves sometimes playing the other guy's part, because by ear, that kind of, you know,
right.
So you have to memorize your individual part in these little segments, because the other guy is in the in-between part of those segments. And when we were doing this call and response, we realized, like, oh my gosh, this is, you know, it was quite hard. So just our budget only allowed us to have the two of us there. We tried so hard to get the four of us in the video, obviously, because we feel it's a band, and everything about the band is a focus of four of us, except for these videos where it looks like the bass players want to steal all the spotlight, which is absolutely not the case. We had many conversations with the other two guys before we started the videos, and it was, you know, everybody knew that it was just going to be the two of us, so we were all on good terms and everything like that. But we talked about it at dinner sometimes, like, man, can you imagine the drum line for these songs? How is this guy going to play his part start to finish? And then the two basses sharing a bass line and trading off, and then you put this really technical guitar and all the gent style and all the sweeping and this. I mean, we were like, man, this is a huge undertaking to play live.
Yes, really difficult following the
No,
sound.
I think it's for the drums. This is really. I mean, I'm sure Yuma wrote everything out before he went to the studio and recorded everything. But it's the time signatures are really, they are complicated. While you don't hear that necessarily back in the production, when you listen to the album, everything is kind of flowing, and everything feels pretty natural. But if you see the time signature, the changes, it's quite mind blowing. And to put this, this is definitely a tough job for a drummer if you have to perform this live.
I imagine, man. Okay, we were talking about the videos about the new album, and I want to know, how was the making of in general? Steve was speaking a little bit about it, but in entering in more details, how was the shooting and where it was? Both videos were in the same location or in different locations?
Steve got in touch, right, with the producer, with the video producer.
Yeah, I have a German friend named Philip who does a normal video blog called Drum Talk, and that's probably his passion, because his profession is doing all kinds of different videos. And so it was funny because I called him and I asked him for a reference, you know, like, hey, who do you know in the Netherlands that will do music video for me and Jeroen? And he's like, me. I said, well, but you're in Germany, you know, it's taking all my money just to get myself to Netherlands and have the time to work on these songs. And he goes, don't worry about it. Get on the train, come to Frankfurt. He goes, I rented a place and we're going to set up. So we spent an entire weekend in Frankfurt, and I wanted to make sure that we did at least 2 songs, because with the distance of me and Jeroen being so far away, to play, once again, like I said during the recording, I wanted to play physically near each other, because it would be quite economical if we were to just do our own green screen versions at home and have a video editor make it look like we're together. And that's probably the way we should have done it, but we chose the hard way because I wanted it to look real and feel real. And boy, that was that was a lot of work to make it look the way you see it. But I wish we have a dream of doing some kind of video for all the songs, because it's another way for people to hear the music. You know, why not? It's but we managed to get 2 done in the couple of weeks that I was there, and then I found a video animator. Seems to be an even more increasing popular thing. I mean, obviously, animated videos have been going on since MTV started in the 70s, so it's not a new idea, but it seems to be a little more prominent, because I think bands were kicking out these lyric videos, and lyric videos don't require such a high demand of graphics because they're just background. The words are changing and you're reading the lyrics of the song goes by. But when you have an instrumental band like me and my Dutch partner here, it's like we needed some action with the graphics. So I found an animator in Romania. His client list is quite long. He's very, very good at what he does, and we were able to get 3 out of the 7 songs visualized, whether it's me and you playing it or if the graphic. These are all up on YouTube, and it helps people find our music, and it helps people have a visual to go along with the audio. And I believe it's a very, very important tool, especially a new band like us, where people have no reference. They don't know what we are until they push play, and that's the only way they can learn it. So yeah, it was a pretty major, important step in getting this album promoted. And I think it's we have a pretty strong promotional team with Agonia Records, and they're really pushing all 3 of these videos and using even little 30-second, 60-second clips from these videos to keep reminding people they're there. And it's all about the main objective of spreading the music and getting people to listen to it. So we'll see if we can add a couple more to the YouTube playlist. You know, right now we've kind of, especially the early part of this year, with finalizing the mix and the master and putting the cover and the graphics and the photos and the posters and the video, we had a very, very busy half of a year. So now it's time to just let the album venture into the world like a 26-year-old Argentinian looking for shows to see. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what the demand will actually be and how people receive the music.
It's a really cool album, man. I really loved it. I'm not a fan, to be honest, of the progressive metal, but I hear it, and it's really cool because it has the essence of both of you. You go ahead of me on a question I was going to ask you about about what it's like working with Agonia Records. As you say, they are a really good team for you, and they're helping you a lot.
Yeah, I have been in touch with them for several years already, like years before actually we started thinking about like releasing. I think Agonia is very open-minded, and they really respect a band's identity, you know, like they do their best. In our case, we are really a strange, you know, like we are, if you see the artist roster and you see QUADVIUM, we are, yeah, very different band, very different style. So it's actually, it says a lot, you know, like how open-minded they are. And Philip came over while Steve was tracking in Amsterdam. So in a very early process, and he came over, and Philip Jason, he wanted to hear it. He was so curious, you know. So that's where it started, actually. So we have a very positive experience with them. Plus, they are doing a lot of effort for QUADVIUM. They're doing a lot of promotion. They're on top of it, and yeah, it's so much appreciated, you know, like, especially when you make music that is not accessible for the mass, you know, like it's a specific product, and then you see a label doing so much effort. That's truly amazing to experience.
Yeah, we were talking about your creative process, write a song, the quality check, but we don't talk about your main influences or your inspiration. How do you get inspiration for this album specifically when you have to write? What are the main things that makes you say, okay, this worked for me to work in a new song for this album?
I'd like to say real quick that this is a very common question, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean it's a very normal curiosity, and the usual answer is to point to an influence. You know, this is my favorite player, this is my favorite band, this is the path we want to take. I think in our case, our inspiration to direct this band was into a void. We didn't have someone ahead of us that is doing this to look to. So our inspiration was to go into a place where no one else exists and make it our place. You know, there's so many guitar players me and Jeroen have both worked with that just, they hear the fretless bass and it's like, what is that? And then here we are trying to put two of them together, and it could have been a potential microtonal storm, but fortunately I have this great ear. No, I'm just kidding. I have a horrible ear. Jeroen is always telling me up. But yeah, we didn't have this path laid out for us by anybody at all. It was a journey into the black of space, and that was a great influence to have, because the more we knew we were doing something really, really weird, the more we knew that it was unique and it would be ours. And it did create a slow process and make a lot of questions and stuff happen. But those type of problems are good because there was no answers anywhere. We had to create our own answers. So yeah, I just wanted to start with that. Like, we do have our personal favorite musicians and bands we look up to, and those are natural things of being a musician. And yeah, we could go on and on about this specific thing, but as far as the direction of this project between me and my bass player partner, our influence was an absence, and we wanted to fill that spot. So yeah, I don't know if you want us to go down a list of who we like to listen to, but yeah, for me it's whoever's good. A lot of times when we would stop the recording process and go out to Jeroen's living room and have a coffee or a beer or something, he would put on some, hey, have you heard this? Have you heard this? And so a lot of times I would kind of look to Jeroen to show me some new stuff. So we also allowed our minds to be open and let all the music we love in and eventually come out like this. Yeah. So I just wanted to say that much about it.
And you,
Well, I think I think it's true what Steve says, but it's also the luck we had, and the time. Without time pressure, we were able to throw in very rough ideas. So not necessarily of a style of a bass player or somebody who influenced us big time, but more like ingredients. And because of taking the time for that, I think if the very initial ideas we had, they still come out very strong. And that's so beautiful about this whole process, that it's a mix of our musical interest and also where we wanted to be with these two bases, which both articulate very different, and they go so well together in music. And also thanks to our other two colleagues.
Saved our life.
Great answer, great answer. And now I have a question specifically for Steve, because I'm a really big fan of Megadeth, and I cannot not ask you about your collaboration with Dave Mustaine in his last album. So I want to ask you, how was the experience of work with Dave and of recording with them the bassist tracks for the Sick, the Dying, and the Dead?
Well, Dave was great with me. I mean, the phone calls leading up to my trip. I need to start out saying that even though I've been in Testament so long, Testament and Megadeth have a long history together, but it seems as timing goes, I was never there in whatever time. So for me, it was the first time meeting him ever. So I didn't have a history with him. I didn't know him at all. And so we had several phone conversations leading up to it. And he needed a bass player, but he said his main goal, because they had spent over 2 years working on this record to get it finished, he said, it's getting to the point, it's too long, and we really, really just need to get this record done. And he knew that I had a reputation to come into a new situation with stuff I've never heard before and learn it quickly and get it sounding final. That's one thing I've done for a long time, and I told him he could count on me for that at least. So from my perspective, if I just look at the job, it's something I've done hundreds of times, and to go to Nashville and learn these songs and play them, sure, that's what I do. But then, of course, I have this huge weight on my head. Like, this is no regular just band. I mean, this is the Giants. This is, one of the biggest metal bands in history. And so it was a lot of pressure that I put on myself to make sure that the choice was the right one. But Dave made it easy on me. He was way past the deadline and he needed to get it done. And so there was no rough parts during the recording. It was just a smooth process, and we went and got it done. But when the recording was finished and everything was the right sound, my time was over. I came in to help the band finalize the record and get it sent off to be mixed and finally released. So I got to be in his presence a total of 13 days, if that. So that's pretty quick. In that amount of time, with as long hours that we were working on it, there was not much time for anything else. We went out to eat a couple times, and once in a while we'd sit outside and tell stories. But yeah, I mean, I didn't really get to know the band as friends, or me and the drummer are previous friends. That's kind of who opened the door for the whole possibility for it to happen. So me and Dirk go back many years, and we played on quite a few projects together. But he wasn't there. He had been done for a long time, and he's not going to sit around the studio with nothing to do. So Dirk wasn't there. Everyone else I met for the first time, and it was pretty in and out. It was just about getting the job done, and then we had a high five and a hug, and I left Nashville, and then he had the job to find a bass player to come in and fill the lineup and commit to the tours and everything. So yeah, it's a 50-50 situation. The first half being, I'm quite used to it. I'm an old journeyman studio session guy, and that part was easy. But the other side of it was, you know, no joke. That's a big band, and you want to be your best and not fuck up, you know, and leave a good impression when you're done. So I was quite nervous the whole time, but Dave was very, you know, Dave's a very polarizing person publicly. There's a million stories of him out there. I mean, everybody has their opinion of what this person is like because he creates a lot of news, and he's, you know, and what I saw was a wake up in the morning, have a coffee, and get to work Dave. So as far as drama or any of the stuff that hits the news, there's none of that. I mean, it was work time, and he was super fucking cool guy, and he's a big part of metal history. So I was also, you know, listening and absorbing these cool stories and just being part of something major for a short time. It was quite nervous, but no, it was over almost as soon as it began. It was in and out, and sometimes until people like how you just brought it up to me, sometimes I have to remind myself that I was part of that, but back to normal life, you know, and yeah,
man,
but nothing but good memories though. It was nothing but good memories. It was a good session. Yeah,
man, you always do a really great job with the bass guitar. So congrats for being part of that, and congrats for that job.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, we are finished. And I want to know, what are your future plans from now after releasing this album? Because the album is now available on YouTube and everywhere. So what are your plans for the future, Paul?
I think it's a beautiful idea to continue working on material. And maybe it's also good to, before we could go live, do live performances, it would be nice to have more material, you know, like it's actually on our list to start working on rough ideas. I mean, everybody's super busy. Steve is a lot on the road. So we are dependent on each other, of course. So we have to see how we can divide tasks, etc. But yeah, it would be nice to continue this.
Great. Okay, now to finish, with all your experience on the road and in your careers, what advice would you give to a band that is just starting out in the industry right now?
It's a different world. You know, we've all seen the decline of CD and record sales. Everybody goes to streaming and downloading and everything. And for a while, the live concerts were saving us, because the desire to be at a concert and to experience that in open air is still something very human, and it's something that, you know, like I said, it saved us. It's the one part of our job that still, you know, we're still selling tickets, and everybody loves to get a new T-shirt and stuff, and that type of thing has not changed, but it's getting harder and harder and harder to do that. The cost of everything is going up so high. I mean, even just transportation fuel just to get to each city is incredible. That could eat 60% of your entire budget just to drive whatever you're in, a van, a bus, whatever. It's so expensive, and the merchandise printing costs are going up, and equipment rental costs are going up, and now with the world in a bit more of a tense political situation, you know, borders are getting harder to enter, work visas. For example, we used to have 2 technicians that were part of the Testament crew, and one was from Germany and one was from Portugal. and I think the band said that their work visa, a 3-year visa, was about $6,000 for these two people. Now we have these two European techs that we want to bring with us everywhere we go, $11,000 each one, just for a work visa. So there's so many things, so many categories of putting a live show and a tour together that these budgets are becoming harder and harder to reach and make come. And I really don't. I'm fortunate to play with kind of a legendary type band. What do they call it? Legend band, an old fucking band. Testament's been around for a long, long time, so their offers are really good, and we have, you know, good time slots at festivals, and we're fortunate to be a veteran band with an established past, and I'm fortunate to be in the lineup of this. So it works for us. It is getting harder, but for a new band, I have no idea. I don't know to get a budget to pay all these airplane tickets and fuel costs and these work visas and stuff. I really don't know what's happening with the world. So, yeah, that's the worst advice
Yeah,
I think I can give.
yeah, it's
Sounds a bit negative.
make a tour right now. And you, Paul?
Well, you know, I think it's also for, you know, musicians who start now, in no matter what kind of setting, but and I think it goes for artists in general. But yeah, sometimes I think about that. If you finish a conservatory right now, you know, like how are you going to build something? The only thing I'm sure about is that it makes a lot of sense for musicians, for bands to have their own identity, to be really unique in something, to not be like chewing gum, and that is probably also the path to success, to work a lot and believe in this sort of a loyalty, to stick with your own wishes and your own sound, your characters. I think that makes a lot of sense. That's still, yeah, makes it, let's say, it makes a bigger chance that you will succeed in something.
Great, man. Thank you so much to both of you guys for your time, for being here. I hope you had a good time with this interview. It was really a really nice interview for me, and I wish you a lot of success with this project and with all the projects that you will bring. For real.
Thank you so much.
I want to thank you for your attention, and definitely for the support in helping us spread this brand new, very unique project. So your help is appreciated by us, and I'm glad we could reschedule and get you down and have this talk. So from us to you, thank you for your time.
Thanks to you, man. See you soon. See you soon in Argentina.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I will go, definitely. Yeah.
Vamos pues. Nos vemos entonces.
Nos vemos. Goodbye.
Okay,
Ciao.
goodbye. Thank you.